company is called Relaxo Footwear. This is India's largest footwear manufacturer. It was created around 25 years ago. And what they've done over the last 10, 11 years is almost a prototype of how to enter a highly competitive market and turn it into a dominant monopoly, right? So I'll give you sort of a little bit of background on Relaxo, and I'll explain how they built a powerhouse compounding machine, and how over the next 10 years, even if you never see me again, why you can make a lot of money by investing in this straightforward franchise, which is utterly dominant with no competition anywhere remotely in sight. So till the late 90s, these people were low-profile footwear manufacturers in the suburbs of Delhi, in an industrial suburb of Delhi called Bahadurgarh. Their footwear wasn't particularly distinguished. My parents left India in the early 90s. Until then, I remember Relaxo Footwear was not something you really thought about that much. In 2007, they hired Accenture. In 2007, these guys hired Accenture for what turned out to be a 10-year project to reduce their receivable days, their debtor days, right? The number of days it takes them to collect revenue. So Accenture installed SAP, and year upon year, using the SAP installation, they crushed their debtor days, the receivable days, right? So by 2017, they were down to 30 days. It takes them 30 days. It takes Relaxo 30 days to collect revenues. It takes Bata, the multinational company, 90 days to do the same thing, right? So compared to anybody else in India, Relaxo collects revenues in 1/3 the time, courtesy superior SAP implementation. Now, any company that collects money quicker will have more cash flows, right? By definition, if you collect money quicker, you'll have more cash flows. And the counterintuitive thing that Relaxo did from 2010 onwards was to use that superior cash flow to set up new plants, right? Why is that counterintuitive? Because the world over, everybody, Nike included, outsources footwear manufacturing. The conventional point of view is the footwear manufacturer should focus on design and branding. Production should be outsourced. These guys said, no, screw that. We will actually set up factories. And over the last 12 years, they've set up 8 factories in the outskirts of Delhi. They're now by a factor of 6, the largest manufacturer of footwear in the country. They make 200 million units of footwear a year, compared to the closest rival who makes 40 million units of footwear a year. Because the scale of footwear manufacturing is so colossal now, they get the raw materials for making this stuff at half the cost of what their competition gets, right? And as a result, even though they sell, say, their entry-level products are $1.50, US dollar, $1.50, around 100 rupees, even at $1.50, their gross margin is 60%. Their operating margin is 17%. Companies who are selling footwear at 5x, 6x the price aren't able to match those profit margins, right? So first thing, crush working capital cycle, deliver surplus cash. Second thing, use surplus cash to build colossal scale. Use that to crush the cost of manufacturing, crush the unit economics, so that even if you're selling something at a $1.50 price point, which is entry-level footwear in India, you're still incredibly profitable. Then 2017, they hired BCG and Deloitte for another round of upgrading, right? And what BCG and Deloitte told them is that, look, you've done ever so well in entry-level footwear, in what we call chappals or Hawaiian floaters, I think you'll call them in outside India. You've done ever so well. Why don't you replicate this in sandals? So they launched, so there's something called Crocs, which is a foreign product. It's incredibly expensive in India. These guys launched an entry-level Crocs. They didn't call it Crocs, they called it Sparks. They launched it at 1/5 the price point, and they've dominated the entry-level sandals market as well. And then they launched entry-level sports shoes at, say, around the $15 US dollar price point, and they become dominant there as well, right? So 2017, they broadened their offerings beyond entry-level footwear into beyond entry-level floaters to entry-level sandals and shoes. And then they began another part of upgrade, which has transformed the business another notch. Till 2017, what these guys were doing, what Relaxo was doing, was they were using wholesalers, right? Now, in any country, there are retailing involves wholesalers, distributors, and dealers. Wholesalers basically control a whole territory. Relaxo, for example, would go to the wholesaler for the state of Rajasthan and say, look, here is the Rajasthan consignment. I'm going to give you the consignment, you're going to give me the payment, and then what you do with the consignment, Mr. Wholesaler, is your headache. And what BCG told these guys in 2017 is, look, guys, you can't build competitive advantage like this. So over the last 5 years, what Relaxo has done is not only appointed wholesalers, they've also appointed for each city. In each city in Rajasthan, they would appoint a distributor. And then they incented the distributor to build out the retailer. Retailer is the last mile, the fellow on the high street who flocks their product. Back in 2017, they had barely 10,000 retailers selling their product. Today, they have 50,000. Through COVID, they doubled their retailer count. If you add up all the other footwear manufacturers in India today, put together, the rest of the footwear manufacturers won't have 50,000 retailers. Relaxo alone has 50,000 retailers. So if you now step back and look at Relaxo, they have the tightest working capital cycle, the lowest cost structure, by far the most extensive range of entry-level footwear, and they have the most extensive distribution. Right, and you've got India's monopoly compounding business ready. This company has already compounded free cash flows in the last. If you go back to these slides, you'll see Relaxo's free cash flow compounding. Sorry, it's not here. It's another slide. Relaxo's free cash flow compounding the last 5 years has been around 35%. Now they've built out the entire system. Right, they have built out the entire system in terms of product and channel. They are ready for what we call the formalization of the footwear market. Now, what is the formalization of the footwear market? The Indian public buys 3 billion units of footwear a year. Out of those 3 billion units, 2.5 billion is made in the black economy. Only 500 million is made in the formal economy. Out of those 500 million, Relaxo manufacturers are 0.2 billion. So our formal sector makes only 500 million. Relaxo makes 40% of that. But the big story is the informal, the tax evading sector. Each year in India, the tax evading sector is dying a little bit as the government cracks down on tax evasion. As that tax evading sector dies, and the tax evading sector, remember, is colossal. 2.5 billion units of footwear are in the tax evading sector. As that dies a little bit, every year customers are thrown into Relaxo's arms because the tax evading sector customer pays a $1 to $1.50. The only organized sector manufacturer who makes footwear at $1.50 is this guy. And as therefore the Indian footwear sector formalizes, Relaxo at $3.5 billion market cap is beautifully placed to compound over the next 10 years at 10x for us.